G'day everyone, Tempo here and welcome to the TD Project. In today's episode I'm going to be talking about mental health and the implications of mental health issues and their links to bullying and crime. As this is part of my teaching vlog, this will be with direct reference to mental health issues in the school setting and its implications on teenagers and students. And as such, this will also be a direct reference to the hit Netflix series 13 Reasons Why. Now before we get started, I just want to say, not sponsored by Netflix or 13 Reasons Why, but if you guys want to sponsor me, be sure to hit me up. It'd be pretty cool if I started to get some sponsors. Also, my video is only going to be a direct response to Season 1 of 13 Reasons Why. Mainly because I only want to touch on the story arc of the first season, and I also haven't seen Season 3. And that's mainly because I feel 13 Reasons Why is starting to do that classic American TV show thing where they have an amazing original initial premise and they're like, ooh, this is really good, we're making a lot of money off this, let's see how much more money we can milk out of this, and they start making up more storylines and more seasons, and that starts to detach itself from the original season that made it really good, and it's just like, what are you guys doing now? This is nothing like what you started with, and the quality has declined. But if 13 Reasons Why has not done that, be sure to let me know, maybe I'll check it out. But yeah, heaps of American shows have done that, so that's kind of why I'm staying away from Season 3. Also, I'm going to be talking about 13 Reasons Why in a way that will make sense to anyone that has seen it, but it's also not going to spoil anything for people that have not seen it, because I do recommend you guys check out this series, especially Season 1. Now, before we get into it, what's the premise of 13 Reasons Why, for anyone that hasn't seen it? So, 13 Reasons Why revolves around the story of a high school student named Hannah who, spoiler alert, she commits suicide. Okay, well that's not really a spoiler alert, that's the opening initial premise of the whole series. The suicide of Hannah is what triggers the whole story. She has a lot going on, she has some mental health issues, and it just all builds up. There's a lot of pressure for a young person to deal with, and she doesn't really have many coping mechanisms, so she feels the best way to handle all of it is to end her life. So that's the opening premise, and then the story revolves around primarily another student named Clay who somehow gets into his possession these 13 cassette tapes, and thank you 13 Reasons Why for explaining to the younger generation what cassette tapes are, because I'm pretty sure most people under the age of 15 had no idea what cassette tapes were. But that being said, if you're not old enough to know what a cassette tape is, you probably should not be watching this MA-rated TV show. Anyway, so Clay's gotten himself these cassette tapes, and there's 13 of them, and on each of these cassette tapes is a recording of Hannah, and she explains in detail a reason that led to her committing suicide. So she's got 13 Reasons Why. And throughout the first season, you then delve further and further into the story of Hannah and all the things that she experienced, all the things that she felt, and all the problems and all the pressures that she kept building up inside of her. And it's just all this built up to the final moment towards the end of the season where you realize what finally led to her committing suicide. And I should probably throw out that I don't condone or encourage suicide, and that is the opposite of why I'm making this video. If you feel the need to do that, I highly encourage you to talk to someone, because that is not the best solution and there's many other avenues you can take. But 13 Reasons Why decided to follow down the story path of why one such person would want to commit suicide. And something stood out to me throughout Season 1, especially because I was watching it through the lens of a high school teacher, and it just really bothered me. And the main problem I have with Season 1 of 13 Reasons Why is that for almost the entire season, for almost the entire first story arc of you watching what Hannah went through, at almost no point did she actually talk to anyone, and that really bothers me. It bothers me as a teacher, and it just bothers me as a person. She went through all this stuff, didn't talk to anyone, and then all that stuff built up inside of her, and that's what led to her taking her life. And straight up, a lot of this stuff in the story, and ultimately her suicide, most likely would have been prevented if she had just talked to someone. Especially because a lot of the things that happened to her, and by her not talking to people, then created a snowball effect, which then led into the next thing. One episode led into the next episode, and it started to escalate, and it got to the point where she took her life. But if she had just talked to someone, that might not have happened, and that's what I'm trying to get at with this video. So let's start with episode 1. So episode 1, she kind of publicly gets shamed across the school. I won't explain how, but more or less she's being bullied, and the whole school is aware of this thing that's happened to her, and it's publicly shaming her, but she doesn't tell her parents about it. She doesn't tell any of the teachers about it. She doesn't confide in any friends or any of her peers, and that first instance would have, that first incident started to snowball into the next few episodes, and that probably wouldn't have happened if she just told someone and explained the problem and then let other people help her find a solution. And the same thing happens in the next few episodes, like she becomes a victim of some form of bullying, and then she doesn't tell any of her peers to express herself, and she doesn't tell any of the teachers who could help her, and then she doesn't tell her parents at all, and it's just like, all these people are here to help you, but we can't help you if we don't know what's happening, and it's really hard if we don't know what's happening if you don't talk to us. Like, let's take the parents, for example. If you're a parent and your kid says something is happening at school, they're being bullied or harassed, straight up, the default response for a parent would be to go into the school office the following morning and demand some sort of action being taken. Like, that is what the default parental response should be. Your parents are not going to be like, whatever, harden up, grow some balls. They're going to, if they're actually your parent and they genuinely care about you, they're going to march into the school office the next morning and demand some sort of action be taken and trigger a whole bunch of responses from the teachers and the principal to then make some changes, take some action. That's what parents would do, or at least that's what I think parents should do. But let's say you don't talk to your parents. Let's say you go directly to your teachers. Teachers want to help. Above all, we want to teach, but the only way we can achieve the idea of us just teaching students is if we can create a wholesome and safe learning environment for all of our students. And if we know that at least one of our students is being bullied or harassed, or they don't feel safe or welcomed in our classroom or the school environment as a whole, we're going to take action. We're going to make changes. That's our role as teachers. We want to teach, and we can't do that if we know you're being bullied or harassed or suffering from mental health issues. We're there to help. We're going to make changes, and we're going to stomp out the bullying. We're going to find out who's causing all the dramas. We're going to take appropriate actions, appropriate measures to do what we can to help you. And even if students aren't talking to their teachers, teachers are always trying to be constantly aware of what's happening to their students in the classroom and in the school as a whole. For example, maybe I should not be saying this, but I feel the need, I should be saying this, because we take extra measures to ensure all of our students are safe, and we note down what appropriate measures work, what measures don't work, and how we can better improve the environments for our students. So for example, one of the schools that I worked at had a bulletin board in the central staff room, and this detailed all the incidences that happened in the previous day or week, and it also listed certain measures that teachers should take to avoid such instances or to help carry out appropriate measures. For example, if two students were fighting the previous day, on this bulletin would be the names of those students, what triggered the fight, and appropriate measures to prevent that this doesn't happen again. For example, keeping the two students separated from each other. And the bulletin is just full of all these little notes about stuff that happens, negative stuff that happens in the school with regards to students, and how we can use that information to improve the school environment and improve the lives of these students through the classroom and just being teachers. Something else I want to note is that as a teacher, if I'm taking a class that I haven't taken before, that teacher is going to leave notes not only about what stuff to teach, but also how to teach it to certain students and how to cope with not to cope, but how to handle certain students. For example, I took it on a class that I'd never taught before, hadn't met half of these students, and there was a note outlining one of the students, and it said, this student but this student is prone to anxiety attacks, has mental health issues. They are allowed to step out of the class if need be, which is something that generally students are not allowed to, but the exception was made for this student to step out of the class if need be if they're feeling overwhelmed. So that's an appropriate measure we've taken to help this student manage their mental health issues. It also noted on this piece of information that I needed to keep an eye out on this student and to also isolate this student from 2 other students which were constantly triggering her emotional responses. So while I taught my lesson, I also made sure to watch out for this student who had anxiety attacks, make sure she didn't feel overwhelmed, but I also made sure to keep an eye out for the other students that I was meant to keep isolated from her to help minimize any future problems. So what I'm getting at with these points is that we try to work out what's happening with our students in order to better improve our learning environments and to better teach you guys. We want to help and we want to make sure everyone's feeling safe and everyone has the opportunity to learn. And if we see bullying or if we see someone's being victimized, we try to put an end to it. We try to make everything better. But sometimes it's hard for us as teachers, as people, to see everything. And if you've got mental health issues or you're being bullied, it really helps teachers if you come to us about this, because sometimes we're not going to be able to see it. We haven't got 360-degree vision and we can't see through walls and we can't always hear what's happening on the other side of the classroom or the schoolyard. If you tell us, then we're aware of it, then we can take appropriate measures to help prevent it from happening again and to help improve the learning environment. But students don't seem to see it like that. They don't see teachers as people that can or should help, and it just makes our job a little bit more difficult. Not in the sense that it's harder for us to teach, but it's harder for us to create that wholesome and safe learning environment that we want for our students, which is what every student should have and deserves. So back to 13 reasons why, yeah, she doesn't tell the teachers what's going on, and she doesn't tell parents, and she doesn't confide in any of her peers. Side note, if you don't feel comfortable talking to adults, I highly recommend talking to a peer or a friend or a sibling, someone of a similar age, because sometimes it helps to talk to people that are of similar age group to you. Like, it's just, talking helps, right? And I'll explain what you can do if someone is talking to you about the issues. I'll cover that a bit later in the video. Anyway, Hannah doesn't talk to anyone. Like, come on, all these problems are going down and she's not going to be able to solve them on herself, and she just keeps all of that inside and it bottles up, and she doesn't tell anyone what's happening, which could ultimately help improve the learning environment of the school. But no, she keeps it to herself. And then the story snowballs and escalates, and we get further into the season, and one of the halfway episodes, Hannah witnesses a crime being committed against one of her peers. And that peer in particular is unconscious, so they're completely unaware that this crime is being committed against them, and when they wake up they're completely oblivious to the fact that a crime even occurred. But Hannah witnesses this. She witnesses the whole thing, and she doesn't tell her parents, she doesn't tell her teachers, she doesn't tell her peers, she doesn't tell the person who was the victim of the crime, like, as if you wouldn't tell that person that, hey, while you were unconscious, this happened to you. She doesn't tell that person. And then also, this is a very, very serious crime that gets committed in this episode, and she doesn't tell the police. Why wouldn't you tell the police? Like, that should be like one of your default responses. I've just witnessed a serious crime and it's been committed against someone I know. I should tell the police. No, she doesn't. She keeps it to herself. Like, come on. Like, why would you keep it to yourself? Like, a crime's just been committed, and the criminal is just straight up getting away with it, and the show later reveals that it's not necessarily the first time he's done it, and it wasn't the last time he's done it, and that could have been prevented if Hannah straight up just then and there went, nah, that's enough of this, I'm going to the police. No, she didn't go to the police, and that really bothered me. Like, Guys, if you witness a crime, please go to the police. I feel that should be the most logical default response. And then we get further into the series, and she's already got all these mental health issues from all these complexions and complications, and just all these pressures are building up, and then she becomes the victim of a crime herself, a similar crime. It really hurts her, both physically and mentally, emotionally. Just this crime literally breaks her, and it's just like she doesn't talk to anyone after that. She doesn't talk to her parents. She doesn't talk to her teachers. She doesn't talk to her peers, and she doesn't go to the police. Just go to the police. Jesus, oh my. Sometimes I just don't quite understand what goes through people's minds. Like, this is... Go to the police. Like, that should not have to be a second thought or an afterthought. It should be your default logical response. Please, go to the police. Okay, and... yeah, so all this stuff just happens to her, and she keeps it to herself, and it bottles up, just pressure's building. She doesn't talk to anyone. She's emotionally overwhelmed, mentally overwhelmed, and she gets to the point where she's like, I've had enough of this. It'd just be better for myself and everyone if I just died. And that's pretty much the story of 13 Reasons Why. But I want to add one more thing, because I should note that, to my relief, towards the end of the season, she did talk to one person. She went up to a trustworthy member of the school staff, and she explained that, yo, this crime's been committed against me. Well, actually, no, she didn't actually say that. She kind of more implied it. But at least she attempted to talk to someone to get help. And that is what you should at least do. Now, the problem with this instance in 13 Reasons Why was that the staff member did not handle it very well. He kind of dismissed it. Just like, yeah, on your way. But that is not what's going to happen to you in real life if you come to a staff member at your school, or just a trustworthy adult or person in general, and explain your problem to them. That's not going to happen. They did it for the sake of the story for 13 Reasons Why, but that is not what's going to happen in real life. Please, I just encourage people, if you're undergoing bullying, if you're a victim of bullying or a victim of a crime, or you're just under all the pressures of various miscellaneous mental health issues in general, please talk to someone, because not only will it help you, it will help other people, and it might also save lives. I feel I can near guarantee that if the story of 13 Reasons Why Season 1 was real, had Hannah just talked to someone, especially in the earlier episodes, a lot of the stuff in the series would not have actually happened, and she probably would not have got to the point where she decided to commit suicide. She just needed to talk to someone. Yes, you can say she did talk to someone, but it was right at the end. She really should have done more. She should have talked to more people earlier on throughout this process, but no, she didn't. So the takeaway message is, please talk to people if you're struggling with mental health. This is a very serious issue, and quite frankly, it's a little bit underrated, and just we need more people talking about this stuff. And a show like 13 Reasons Why, while it showcased all the negative sides of it, it also worked as a good conversation starter, because sometimes conversations about mental health are difficult to naturally produce when you're talking with other people. So if you mention 13 Reasons Why, it's a good segue into mental health issues and how your family, your friends are going. So encourage you guys to talk about mental health, and mental health is extremely important. So all I'm saying is, with my takeaway message is, if you need help, please seek it. Please talk to someone, whether it's your parents, your teachers, family, friends, or maybe if you're an adult in the workforce, talk to your co-workers, talk to your managers, seek help. And there's also hotlines and websites for you, and they're all free of charge, and they're offering help, and they're highly underutilized. Please take advantage of these government resources. And also, if you are offered help, I encourage you to accept it. Like, if you don't need help, you don't need help. But if you're struggling with mental health issues and someone offers to help you, please highly consider taking it. And then if you're not the one that's being impacted by mental health issues, but someone close to you is, and you can see that someone needs help, like they're really struggling, like you can see that someone is a Hannah Baker, just offer help. Because sometimes it's difficult for people to ask for help, so sometimes the best thing that you can do is offer. And even if that person says no, they should say yes, but even if they say no, just the fact that you offered, just the thought of you offering to help them will mean a lot to them in the long run. And bottom line, just talk to someone, please. Like, we don't talk enough about this stuff. We don't talk enough in general. We need to get these conversations happening, because mental health is impacting society more so than ever, particularly the younger generations, and not enough people are acknowledging this. No one's really talking about it, and straight up, a lot of it could be partially, if not completely, resolved if more people just started talking to each other. So please, talk to each other, seek help, offer help. Mental health is really important, and I hope the message I'm trying to get across actually gets across. And what I'm saying doesn't just apply to teenagers in a high school setting. This applies to everyone, whether you're a kid, a teenager, or if you're an adult in the workforce, or you've got a family. It just applies to everyone. Please take the time to talk to someone and offer help someone, or vice versa. Take some help, and I highly recommend it, because I can say it's gonna help. Please just take my word for it. But that's just what I think anyway. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. What are your thoughts? Do you have any other advice or things that you want to throw out there? Do all those YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, get notified, be kind, rewind, and yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one.